All right,
I'm
you're
ready.
ready.
Yep. All right. It's 1 o'clock. So I'm calling the May 20th, 2024 meeting of the Albemarle County Architecture Review Board to order. Could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Vanderwerf,
Here.
Mr. Matsuno,
Here.
Mr. Hancock,
Here.
Mr. Henningsen,
Here.
Mr. Stoner's running to the stage.
All right. Well, thank you. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting. The public may access and participate in the meeting electronically. Instructions for doing so are posted on the Albemarle County website at the Albemarle County calendar. The public has real-time audiovisual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone. Both is provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the county's website. This meeting is a public record and subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. All speakers, when it is your turn to speak, please first state your name for the record. Applicants who are making presentations, note that your presentation is limited to a total of 15 minutes, which you can divide among your team members. Staff will let us know when the 15 minutes are up. If applicants in the meeting room have team members attending virtually who will need to present, please make that known when you come to the podium. Everyone who is participating virtually, please mute your microphone until it is your turn to speak. Do any ARB members have anything to disclose?
No. 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 No.
No? Are there any members of the public that want to make a comment about a project that is not on the agenda for review?
No.
All right. No, thank you. We do not have any consent agenda items today, and we do not have any work sessions today. So we just have one regular review item, which is ARB 2024-35, Dunlora Park Phase 2. Chris, do you have your presentation?
Yes. The application you're reviewing today is a proposal to construct 9 townhouses containing 11 units with associated site improvements. This application is an amendment to replace the 3 single-family detached units approved for this location in 2023. It's located approximately 293 feet from the intersection of John Warder Parkway and Rio Road East. The portion of Rio Road East that runs southeast of the site is not an entrance corridor. The visibility of the proposed townhouses from the entrance corridor is expected to be limited by distance, the topography of the intervening parcels, and the orientation of the townhouses towards the non-EC portion of Rio Road East. The gable roof forms and building materials provide a minimal connection to the local historic architecture and are reflective of the ARB approved designs used for the townhouses northeast of this site. The north elevation of lots 32 and 36 are oriented towards the EC, but only lot 32 is expected to have visibility. This elevation has few windows and architectural details to relieve the blankness. However, the berm between the site as well as proposed site landscaping is expected to mitigate its blankness. Regarding the landscaping of the site, there are existing trees along Rio Road East. The landscape plan shows evergreen and ornamental trees interspersed among these trees along the interior pedestrian way west of lots 32 to 40. Due to the location of the interior sidewalk, the existing trees contribute to both street and pedestrian way landscaping, and the existing and proposed trees help to satisfy the landscape requirements. No interior road trees are shown along Lindley Lane, but due to distance, the intervening berm and proposed townhouses and perimeter site landscaping, the lack of trees is not expected to have an impact on the entrance corridors. Staff offers the following points for discussion. And staff recommends approval of the major amendment with the revisions listed in the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thanks a lot for the presentation, Chris. Dave, do you have any questions for staff?
No questions. Thanks, Chris.
Tara?
No, thank you, Chris.
Frank Stoner?
No, thanks.
Frank Hancock?
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Chris.
Sorry to disappoint, but I don't have any questions either. So if the applicant has a presentation.
Sure do.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Chuck Rapp with Collins Engineering, and I have Genevieve Furlack here with Greenwood Homes as well. Got a couple of slides, built a little model of the site so you could see it. This thing's full. All right, these are just some photos I took about, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago or so at that corner. Shows the existing sidewalk was recently completed by the county, and those existing shade trees. A couple of these shots here, so you can see the larger shade trees that they planted off the back of the sidewalk there. I can see the phase that's under construction now, and then where these homes will go. There's a good bit of topography drop off there, some utilities, all types of good stuff that we're kind of working around, but I think we're able to fit some nice stuff in there. This is just an aerial view. You can see those large shade trees and then the smaller flowering trees and evergreens worked in. Then we gave you some different views along the road corridor here. This is coming from John Warner Parkway, going along Ryle Road. So again, try to create a good bit of visual interest, a lot of different textures, heights, to kind of provide some visibility of the units, but break them up as well. Just kind of going along that road there, heading out. Like so. And then here's the landscape plan again for reference. So you can see, I've got everything from some red buds to some little gem magnolias, some sweet bay magnolias. We have some American hollies up here to help screen the parking lot, some larger shade trees and shrubs there. Surely try to kind of screen the more utilitarian type stuff, the parking, the drive aisles, things like that. And then just kind of enhance that streetscape that is already existing with the existing large shade trees planted out there. So then we have elevations of all the different buildings. If this will load, there we go. I don't know why that one didn't load, but they're there. Shows the back of the units, the size of the units that Chris had already kind of gone through, front elevations as well. And then some of the specifics about the building materials that you see there. So with that, here's the other row as well. These are the 2/1 units. So there's an affordable unit on the lower level of each of these on the backside, on the ends. And then you have individuals again of those of all different building materials. So with that, happy to answer any questions y'all might have. Pull back up to kind of the plan view, that way you can see it all. If that helps.
All right, thanks for your presentation. Frank Stoner, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thanks. Appreciate the presentation.
Dave?
Sure, yeah, just one question. I appreciate staff's observation that there's some distance from the EC. In terms of the blankness observed on the gable end of 32, I was interested to know if the applicant had any thoughts about potential opportunities to reduce the blankness there.
Hi, Genevieve for like Greenwood Homes. Lot 32 on the other side of it, there are already three townhomes that are built, lot 29 to 31. So that will kind of obscure that visibility too. So when you go back to the floor plan,
See on that one. Right.
up in here, there are currently 3 townhomes already built. So when you see, you kind of already only see like a portion of that side. We don't see a lot of that.
I see. Are there structures that aren't shown on this plan that are?
We already have an ARB approval for those 3
Three there.
units.
I see.
Yes,
That are
yes.
not
So
shown on this
these are exactly the same.
Okay.
And then here, these 2 units are the 2/1. So it's an ADU unit here and here. The bottom is the lower floor is a one floor, 2 bedroom, and then the upper floor is 2 floors with 2 bedrooms. I'm sorry. Went back.
And I was just,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So, but it is exactly the same architecture and look for all.
I think there's some confusion. Maybe we're mistaken and didn't understand, but there are lots labeled 29 through 31 at the upper right-hand.
Oh,
corner of
I'm
that
sorry.
screen.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. So it mimics this exactly. It's the same architecture. I apologize. Yes. So we already have the ARB approval for that and the same architecture on these.
So in that location where 29 to 31 is shown, there is that space there would make the northern elevation of the northernmost unit under consideration today more visible.
Okay, great. Well, the previous approval of a different site, understood. Are there any strategies that could be employed on this? For example, could additional windows or other elements be added to that elevation of 32?
Considering the floor plan and how it's laid out, that would be hard to do. And given that we did the same for the other units, we would like to keep it the same way. The front, and we've really paid attention to the front here as well because it is so visible. But the side plan, the floor plans kind of dictate what the windows need to be like. What we can do and what we have done before is for a side elevation, for example, divide that upper level up and do the siding in a different direction or a shake or something like that. That would be a possibility if that works for you. So we could do that. We could have that detail there and then have the siding vertical on this side. So to give it a little bit more interest. I don't think we can add more windows.
I see, okay. Thank you. That's helpful to understand what may be readily accomplished.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Frank Hancock.
I don't have any questions. We're in the question period, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, thank you for your presentation.
Tara?
No, no questions.
And I don't have any questions either. Are there any members of the public who would like to make a comment?
No,
All right, in that case, the ARB will,
take that back. Neil does.
Good afternoon. Neil Williamson with the Free Enterprise Forum. We do not have any specific position on this project. However, we do always take a good hard look at what you're looking at to bring forth the ideas. 9 townhomes you're examining. This, I think, is their second appearance before the ARB. Each one of these appearances costs money. It's helpful perhaps to develop standards that we could just have staff administer. That notwithstanding, the question from Mr. Vanderwerf is a very valid one, but I ask whether that particular view is visible from the entrance corridor. It looks as though it's on the different drive and it's not visible. It's kind of a unique position where you are as you can't see, this board can't see things that aren't on the entrance corridor. And I think the majority of that view may or may not be within your purview. But I just brought that forward for information. Thank you.
all right, thank you for your comment. So the ARB will now go into discussion. I guess, starting with Tara. Do you have any comments?
I guess could we go back to the view? Just trying to address the question of whether or not it is a view that can be seen.
I got Chris. Whose view do you want? Chris's or Chris's? Okay, we got it now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, from the entrance court. I think it was Chris's. So the arrow is showing where that facade would be.
Approximately. Approximately.
Okay, thanks. Well, in general, I appreciate the applicant putting forth this project for the board. I think I'll sort of leave it up to other board members to make their own assessment of what we're seeing in these images, but from my perspective, I think that provided that that facade, I think in the previous project that was approved, we had looked at screening strategies where there are additional plantings on that facade for a similar townhome. So I'd be amenable for a landscape solution to be used in this position as well. But aside from that, you know, it's part of even though it differs from the original site plan, I believe, that this is you know, consistent with the previous application before the board and architecturally is quite similar. So I don't have any particular issues with this project as presented, provided the screening might be considered.
All right, thanks. Frank Hancock?
Yeah, I agree with Tara. I don't have any additional comments. I think it's entirely appropriate. I think it's good that we're adding density here. Not that that's really our charge, but more units is good, I think, so.
All right. Thank you. Dave?
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate the applicants and Mr. Williamson's comments. I think it's helpful to me to see this view and to see that I think that end gable is visible. I think in this case, the distance and the landscaping that's proposed mitigate it. I do think for this application and others, so often we see very blank ends of townhouses with you know, sort of resultant elevations from the interior. And I think in terms of this board's charge to, you know, see that development is harmonious and orderly and in keeping with historic precedents. I think if we look at historic precedents of houses that, you know, gable ends are often developed with some frontality to the entrance corridor from an urban perspective for that elevation would be appropriate. And so I would hope that for this applicant and, you know, they do very nice development in the county, I think it could be taken a step further and further enhance the character of our county with greater care and attention to the gable end elevations of the developments. So certainly I think this application is perfectly suitable. I think there's an opportunity to improve the character and quality of these going forward.
All right, thank you. Frank Stoner?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues on both counts, actually. I don't think the visibility is enough to warrant requiring additional landscaping in this case. That said, I concur with Dave's suggestion that as builders and developers, we give thought to those end elevations. This is actually a highly visible location once you get off on Raya Road. Coming out of Dunlore or driving down Raya Road, it will be very visible. So I'd encourage you to think about additional landscaping, but I don't feel like we're in a position to require it.
All right, thank you. I guess I just have one question. I'll start to say I agree with my colleagues and feel that this proposal is appropriate, but I'm wondering that island between Dunlore Drive and Rio, is that private property or is that publicly?
Both parcels are owned by the city.
Okay, I was just wondering like what, if anything, would ever be happening with that? Because it's kind of a large area that could eventually have something that would further, you know, obscure this development, but that's kind of neither here nor there.
I can answer that if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll build a roundabout there at that intersection, and majority of that green space will become a stormwater management pond.
Okay, lovely. In that case, I guess we will review staff's recommended motion.
The recommendation was for approval with the conditions that were listed in the staff report.
All right, I'll give everyone just a minute to reread it and then just run through and see if anybody has any tweaks. All right, Dave, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with it based on the discussion where it is. If folks, it sounded like the applicant was open to considering changing siding direction, adding a little bit of detail to the texture. And certainly if they're willing and interested in considering and possibly implementing that, I think it could be an improvement.
All right, Tara?
I just wanted to clarify on item 6, basically the perspectives had shown shrubs on that elevation that we were discussing, but that the plan doesn't show it. That's kind of the issue. Would you mind just going to the landscape plan again? Because the berm had been mentioned too. I kind of wanted to clarify at that point before we move forward. Because I guess to Frank's point, I just want to see what landscaping is actually being proposed. Sorry to make you switch devices a bunch. So it's just that portion between the stair.
So those 3 circles together are American hollies.
Okay.
And then you have a sweet bay magnolia. Is that one a little bit closer at the top of the stairs right there? Yeah. So those are 4 evergreen, species that'll get and then 10 to 15 feet tall, maybe 20 feet at maturity. Yep.
Okay.
But I'm happy to add shrubs along the side of the building. They're going to go there anyways. That's fine.
They're gonna go there anyway?
Yeah.
You said? Okay, if you could just indicate them when you submit the
Sure.
plan, that would be
We'll add them
great.
on that. Yep.
Okay, thanks. That was my only comment.
All right, thanks. Frank?
Which one?
Oh, Stoner.
See?
Sorry.
Can we go back to the motion? Or suggested motion? Does this reflect, item 7 reflect what you guys have offered to do, or?
Okay, you have to come up to the, thank you.
My apologies. Since it's not as viewable from that corridor, we would like to leave it if possibly can, especially since they are ADU units already. We can do it if you require it.
It sounds like you guys do have foundation planting
Yes,
along that
yes. we do.
edge. Yeah. I'm good. Adding consider, I think, yeah, works for me.
All right, thanks. Frank?
I'm good. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, and I don't have
Thank you.
any adjustments. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve ARB 2024-35 Dunlore Park Phase 2 major amendments with conditions as listed, adding number 7, which is consider revising the north elevation of lot 32 to change the direction of siding at the upper portion of the wall.
All right, thanks. I'll second that. So if we could put that to a vote.
All right. Mr. Henningsen,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
and Mr. Vanderwerf.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. So we are now on to other business, first of which is approval of the May 2024 minutes.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that one too. If we could put that to a vote.
I'm sorry, I missed who made the motion and who seconded it.
Oh, Dade?
Dave, okay.
Yeah.
And who seconded?
Oh, I did.
Who did?
Me.
You did, okay. Thank you. Mr. Vanderwerf,
Aye.
Mr. Matzuno,
Aye.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Henningsen.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. All right, do any board members or staff have any other items they would like to discuss?
I'll add just one observation. I shared with Margaret, VDOT is studying the Ivy Road corridor currently. And we recently were looking at the old Ivy Road development of the Gray Star townhouses. Townhouses, apartments attached to a large development. And, I know they did a visibility study. The key thing that stood out to me is that some of the things that are being contemplated in the VDOT plans might change rights of way and might affect the screening that we thought was adequate for the development. So I don't know that there's anything for us to do relative to that application. But it just emphasizes for me, again, I think in our discussions about the comprehensive plan, we noted sort of the landscaped and rural character of the county and the continuity of planting on corridors as key elements. So it raises for me the question of whether some further measure, either for this board or probably more likely in zoning or other planning is necessary if that kind of character and continuity is to be preserved. Anticipating that other rights of way may inevitably, be growing and buffers that seemed adequate may be shrinking. I would like to encourage us to think about possibly encouraging the county and zoning and planning to contemplate incorporating bigger landscape buffers adjacent to entrance corridors.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
That, I'll just add, I think that's a good point. I think when we review anything, I think when we look at current right of way, just might as well look at that as not being there because there's no control over that. But I don't think there's a way to look at a application and think what right of way, additional right of way is going to be taken.
No.
And like, how would we evaluate, a proposal and say, well, they could take this portion of the site in the future, which then would, I don't think there's no way it would.
Well, I agree. We
Like,
can't.
stop, yeah.
Can't get into conjecture about where there will be expansions. I don't know if that would lead us to, though, I think your point's a good one. Do we, if buffer requirements aren't there, do we need to effectively still be looking for a buffer on the sites of the developments that we look at? And if so, what needs to happen to our guidelines or other things so that we actually have a basis
Yeah,
to do that?
or if it's a building, just pretend like one day you could see it. So we need to evaluate the whole thing, but it could be visible. If
Well-
50 feet of right of way gets taken and it's all
Indeed.
wooded.
Yeah, I think just so often in our discussions, we talk about landscape or distance being the mitigating
Yeah.
factor for the visibility, and that, just as in this conversation, leads us to accept maybe a mediocre architectural character. So it's just for me, I think an issue of concern and interest. We're all spending time on this board, hopefully improving the character of the county. And so torn a bit between how do we give, light review to the architecture, anticipating that there's adequate screening and buffer and landscape mitigating it, when in fact that is often, as the county evolves, not going to persist. So, I would love for us to wrestle with, is there some way either to, in a greater way, assure that there's some development that mitigates, the impact of architecture, or think more stringently about the character of the buildings that we're approving on the corridors.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it because I don't actually know. is VDOT subject to local review, such as our review if they were gonna do something like BAR?
Are you asking if
Review.
VDOT needs to come to the ARB for the
Yeah.
review?
Yeah, no, they get to use galvanized fencing it wherever. they
Well,
want.
I did start by saying I thought I knew the answer, but I just wanted to make sure.
See them at meetings very.
I love the idea though.
So, yeah, I guess
One day.
that kind of gets to the point of, they can do whatever they want. So, like,
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, but there is some interaction with planning staff, like when the grade separated interchange at Rio near the small area plan. I mean, I would feel like that was reviewed or coordinated between the county and VDOT. I don't know that it came to this board, but
Yeah, I'm not the best person to explain the VDOT process, and we can bring someone else
yeah.
to do that in the future. But certainly there is a certain, to a certain extent, public process for that, and staff is involved, the county's involved to a certain degree, but I'm really not the best person to.
But I think the stormwater facilities like on 29 are an example where they're often fenced with just regular galvanized chain link and, there's not really a chance to impact anything, I think in terms of, well, not at the county level. VDOT's,
Yeah.
at state.
Yeah, but Data, I think it is kind of a good point that I think in a particular review at a moment in time, it differs winter visibility versus summer visibility. There's I feel like we can tend to think of the landscape in between the entrance corridor and the proposed development as being static, but depending on who owns the land and what plans there exist for it, that could change pretty significantly. That's probably something to consider when we're weighing the relative mitigation of distance and existing landscape when we're reviewing projects, because there are times when we've been burned before by assuming that there was something won't be visible and then finding that it would be actually pretty significantly. So I think it's a good reminder.
I have two questions. One, do we have any more entrance corridors to evaluate, or is that process done?
The guidelines addenda?
Yeah.
We have been through all of the corridors. Right now, we are in the process of updating and coordinating the maps. We had some changes along the way from the beginning, so that's all getting coordinated. We're also making some changes to some of the segments. When you all reviewed those, there are a few corridors that you wanted the segments to be changed up. We're working on that. And the third thing, introductory material, we're working on that. So we're trying to wrap that all up and hope to get back to you, start bringing you some of those revised sheets back in the summer.
Awesome. Second question related to what Tara just mentioned. We had this issue with renderings that were not accurate reflections of what was actually there. And it came about as a result of the retaining walls on the project on Pantops. What did we decide in terms of how we hold a landscape architect or anybody accountable for the vision that they show the ARB?
I think where that landed was that type of drawing is not something that was typically considered a final approved plan. So it really is like a visualization, and it wasn't considered part of the final approved packet. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Moving
Is
forward.
there any recourse in the future for make a decision based on a rendering, and the rendering's clearly not even close to what actually ends up getting built? What?
I suppose we should be looking at it more carefully at each case by case basis. And I like we've always said in the past, it really seems like every development is a little more visible than you thought it was going to be. I'm still waiting for the one that's less visible than we anticipated. So I think maybe we just, until we're absolutely certain that those perspectives and renderings are 100% accurate, we need to be coming from that point of view and maybe moving towards like what you were just saying about the buildings, approving architecture that you're satisfied to be able to see. Like I've always said that the guidelines are about making architecture that has an appropriate appearance and then supplementing that with landscaping. We're not really, the goal isn't just to, is not to hide the buildings. So
Good point.
I think we need to be keeping those things in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, that's a good reminder too, like the plans, the drawings, the site plan, the building elevations. If something's different from that, that's a zoning violation.
Right.
So there is recourse, but those renderings don't count. I mean, and maybe if,
Is the recourse.
I think it's a zoning violation, you get a notice that you need to bring the property up to,
And if
The
you
approved
don't do
plans.
that, what happens?
Fines?
yeah, I mean. I don't know how, like, we joke about the ARB police. I don't know if there's that many police officers out looking for these things, but they do pop up where, or when a property changes hands. I think that can be reviewed at that point of like, well, all your parking lot trees are dead. You know,
And does it impact as well the approval or action on other permits? Like if you have an active zoning violation, can you get a building permit or?
I think it can. I'm not sure that that's always been consistent through time. I'm not sure.
The only other thing I wanted to bring up is, Margaret, I noticed that there's a meeting on the 30th, I think, about the form-based code, like sort of a listening session. I was interested in that. It seems like tangential to what the board is working on, so I was curious.
Sure. We have started a project to make revisions to the form-based code. The first couple of site plans have gone through that review process, and as was expected when that code was first adopted, start using it and you realize you left out a few things or you confused a few things or things could be made more clear. So that's really what this is about. We've got some consultants helping us with this, and one of the first big steps in it is what we're calling a listening session. It's we've invited the property owners within the Rio 29 small area plan area and some of the larger property owners and developers to come. It really is just, what do you think about the code? What do you want to tell us? If you've thought about using it and decided not to, why not? Just trying to gather information so we can make the best updates to the code that we can. So it's primarily for property owners and developers in the area, but of course it's a public meeting, so everyone's, and it will be in this room, so if you're all interested, we can forward you that information.
If anything comes up that's relevant to the board,
Yeah.
that'd be kind of interesting to find out, but yeah, thanks for heads up.
All right, well, thanks a lot, everybody. The next ARB meeting is scheduled for June 3rd, 2024. I'll just run down and see about attendance. Dave,
I plan to attend.
Tara,
Yes, I plan to attend.
Frank Stoner,
I plan to attend as well.
Frank,
yes.
and I'm planning on it too. So in that case, it is 1:40. So this meeting is adjourned until our next meeting on June 3rd, 2024. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.